Now the countdown is on. We're now just 5 days away from America's 250th birthday. And with the big day inching closer, the state capitol pulling out all the stops for what we hope is a wonderful weekend ahead. That, of course, could be helped by the weather, which is where we're going to start tonight. Thanks for joining us. I am Hoyt.
And I'm Jurnee Taylor. Of course, we have meteorologist Simone Thomas here. Simone, yes, we want to know about the weekend. Can we get out and about, all those things? But let's maybe just start with this Monday. Weather impact alert also in place for what exactly?
For the heat and humidity, our first true heat wave of the summer. We've had a couple bouts of some heat advisories, but a heat wave is defined as at least 3 consecutive days where the actual air temperature peaks at 95 or higher. We haven't hit 95 yet this year. I think today could possibly be our first 95-degree day when they confirm what the high was. And we briefly touched 95, so if they confirm that the high today was 95, this would be day 1, and we need to get to 3 days for it to be a heat wave. Right now it's 93 degrees across the capital city, and a few cities in central Arkansas were in those lower 90s, but of course when you factor in the humidity, it feels much hotter. We've had mainly clear skies out there, a few of those cirrus clouds across pretty much the southeastern half of the state, but again, as you factor in the humidity, it does feel much warmer. Right now current feels like 102 in the capital city, Pine Bluff feeling like 103, and Searcy feeling like 106. That is why, of course, we have that weather impact alert again in effect through the next couple of days. This is going to run through your Thursday to align right now with the heat alerts coming from the National Weather Service. Heat indices, at least through Thursday, expected to peak around 109, but we are going to keep watching your 4th of July weekend because we may likely need to keep some heat alerts through the weekend as well. But we'll talk more about that in your 7-day outlook. What you need to know for tonight is even after the sun sets, it's going to continue to feel like the low 90s through at least midnight, and then overnight and then just before sunrise tomorrow, you'll see it still feels like the low 80s, even with temperatures dipping into the 70s. So not much relief overnight, but more details on your week ahead are coming up in just a few.
All right, Simone, thank you. Well, this week, 72 million people are expected to travel, and as many are planning to hit the road, gas prices are seeing a downtick, according to Gas Buddy. A gallon of gas is going for about $3.36 here in Little Rock.
And that's 58 cents lower than a month ago, 4 cents lower than the current state average of $4.40 a gallon. This is according to AAA, and they think the downward trend may continue.
Crude oil remains lower, close to where it's at. We still could see declines in the local gas prices. We know that gas prices tend to come up quickly when oil prices rise, and they take a little bit of time to come down once we see oil prices sink.
The national average is also going down, but still sits at nearly $3.80 a gallon. Now, those prices are largely impacted by what's happening overseas, and according to the administration, President Trump is losing patience with Iran, meaning soon things could change.
For now, he says that peace talks with Tehran will move forward and adds that a meeting is set for tomorrow. This is following back and forth missile and drone strikes near the Strait of Hormuz over the weekend. I'm going to get you a couple of election updates for you, starting in the nation's capital, where the Supreme Court ruled that states can count ballots that arrive after Election Day. The decision rejects a Republican-led challenge to late-arriving mail ballots in Mississippi. Does not include Arkansas, though, because state law requires absentee ballots to be in no later than 7:30 on election night. President Donald Trump and many other Republicans have repeatedly argued that lengthy vote counts could lead to questions about the legitimacy of election results.
Meanwhile, back here at home, supporters of a proposed amendment to protect ballot initiative rights are racing to gather enough signatures. The group Protect Arkansas Rights must gather more than 90,000 ballot signatures from at least 50 counties and submit them to the Secretary of State by the end of this week. If they do so, voters could decide on the measure come November.
Just a couple more days, the state will implement new restrictions, shutting out things like candy and soda from shopping carts for those using SNAP benefits. In addition to candy and soda, the restrictions will apply to fruit or vegetable juices with less than 50% real juice. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders requested the waiver last year. Today, just 2 days before it begins, she reiterated how she believes it's going to make people healthier.
This is not about taking something away. The government is not dictating what you can and cannot buy with your own money. We're simply saying the taxpayer is not going to subsidize candy and soft drinks. Food stamps are supposed to be a nutrition program, not drive unhealthy habits and contribute to our nation's mountain of debt.
Now, to help users sort out what's eligible, like how much is 50% of real juice, the state's launching a new app. It's called Arkansas Snap Companion. And it can scan products in stores, indicate whether they are covered by their benefits.
Well, a crime uptick with young people in Jacksonville. Just weeks after a 6-year-old boy was shot and killed, a teenager was also killed over the weekend. THV11's Tanya Rodoziski spoke with the city's mayor about the gun violence involving youth and the solutions city leaders are looking into.
The remnants of bikes and other yard toys are left here off of the 300 block of Spruce Street, which may be an indicator of summer break.
More freedom, more time to do positive things, more time to get into trouble and do stuff that they shouldn't be involved in.
Unfortunately, Friday night, Jacksonville is facing another deadly shooting, leaving many looking for answers. Neighbors tell me off camera, it started while the neighborhood kids gathered, like they always do, to play basketball in front of the houses. Then they heard gunshots and kids scattered. Jacksonville Mayor Jeff Elmore says the victim is an 18-year-old male.
Senseless. I mean, absolutely senseless.
This comes just weeks after a 6-year-old boy was shot in a car.
He was wrong place, wrong time, with his mother and, mother's boyfriend. And, he was an innocent victim of a bad situation.
He says the violence is not just in Jacksonville, but all over central Arkansas, and especially among teens and young adults.
Generally you will see this anywhere from 15 to 22, in that age range, is they're throwing their lives away.
He says he's working on ways to address violence with the police chief and other city officials, but adds it starts at home.
Parents parenting their kids, teaching their kids, right from wrong, or not choosing violence as the immediate way to solve an issue.
Elmore is reminding gun owners to be responsible with their firearms and adds the guns teens are using are usually stolen.
Don't leave your gun in your car, and especially don't leave it unlocked in your car.
In Jacksonville, Tanya Motorzitsky, THV 11 News.
Well, City Councilor Dr. Tamika McCoy says she's going to address the violence at the next Community Conversations meeting. This weekend shooting is the second homicide of the year in Jacksonville. Police have not released any other details. Now, but before we go to break, we want to remind you that this Thursday, only on THV 11 Plus, we're taking a closer look at a breakthrough in one of the state's oldest cold cases as part of our Unsolved series. A woman only known as Jane Doe for more than 30 years was finally identified earlier this spring, but her murder still remains unsolved. We'll show you where things stand in the case this Thursday night at 7 on THV 11 Plus. But still to come here at 6, do you believe? Well, how Team USA is inspiring the next generation of soccer players and fans across the state.
And overnight, we're looking to dip into the 70s, but it'll feel more like the 80s, a warm springboard for even more of that heat and humidity tomorrow. Full details are coming up in 6 minutes.